Hi and good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Hopefully, everybody can see and hear us correctly. If you cannot hear us, just let us know in the chat. In the bottom right corner, you can click on chat and let us know if you can hear us, because then we'll know if everything's going according to plan. Thank you, Johannes, for letting us know. So I think everything's going well. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Millicent, and I'm a customer success manager at Leadinfo. And today I'm joined by Sutton from HubSpot, who's a channel account manager. He's calling in from Ireland, so thank you for joining us, Craig. And I'm also joined by Dukker, who works at who's the founder of Conversion Crew, who are a diamond partner of HubSpot. And they both joined us today to help you guys out with mastering your sales automation like a pro, using Leadinfo data within your HubSpot account. So again, welcome everybody. Leadinfo regularly organize these kinds of webinars to help you out with your sales and marketing activities. And today we're gonna tell you a bit more about mastering your sales automation. So everybody can hear us, that's good. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and in the meantime, more people can join us. We had over 150 or 160 registrants, so we're very excited to get started and share us what we're going to talk about. So yeah, let's get started with the presentation. Again, I'm joined today by Craig and by Ron. Craig's from HubSpot. He's the channel account manager, and Ron works at Conversion Crew, a diamond partner. So what are we going to talk about today? I want to share you, of course, a bit of the intro. I did an introduction of the people who joined me today and the scope of today. So what are we going to talk about, so you have a clear view on everything that's going to be discussed. First off, I'm going to start with the Leadinfo integration with HubSpot, how you can set it up, how you can share information. And after that, Craig will talk more about the Sales Hub. And furthermore, Ron will take us into a deep dive into the possibilities of Sales Hub and into the sequences. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A. Besides Ron and Craig joining us, we also have Davey in the chat, who will be answering your questions. If you have any questions, just put them in the questions tab, and Davey will try to respond to them as soon as possible. If for some reason she missed your question or she's not able to answer them, we will definitely cover them during our Q&A at the end. So let's talk about the scope of today. Today we really want to show you more about the Leadinfo prospect data in HubSpot and what the next steps are. So first off, as I told you, I'm going to talk about the integration and show you how to send over the data, and Ron will then show you where and how the data is stored in HubSpot. He will then continue with the day-to-day prospecting process and how you can use and enhance this data for your further prospecting. We will then look at the advanced features and automation, how to use workflows and sequences using Leadinfo data within your HubSpot account. And of course, he'll discuss the ways to report on the performance. This webinar is being recorded, and you will automatically receive an email afterwards with the recording, so you can share it with your colleagues if they want to take a look at this recording after this webinar. So let me start by showing you how to set up the integration, and afterwards Craig will take over and show you tell you more about HubSpot and the Sales Hub Professional. So this is my the Leadinfo portal, and if everything's correct, this should be very familiar for all our attendees, because this is the place where all the information of your website visitors come together. Because here you can see what company visited what pages. Well, to set up your integration, you need to navigate to settings. And on the left side, you will see an overview of all the integrations that we have. And here you'll see HubSpot. I've already connected my HubSpot account, but if you haven't connected it, you will see a green button that says Connect with HubSpot. And you can just enter your credentials to make this connection. After you've made this connection, you have several possibilities to synchronize your website visits and choose the language in which these website visits needs to be placed. And I will tell you more about these other settings later. Once you've made this connection, you have two ways to send over your information to your HubSpot CRM. If you go to your inbox, you will see in the top right corner, link with HubSpot. This allows you to link this company, your website visitor, to your HubSpot environment. You can either link it to an existing company by looking up a company and then say link, or you can create a complete new company. You can select the company owner, who it should be, and then say create and link. And Leadinfo will now immediately create a company within your HubSpot environment. And Ron will later on show you where you can find that company and what you can do with this information. Now, after you've made this connection, the website visits that the website page that they visited will be shared as a note within your company profile, allowing your sales team to work with the information from Leadinfo straight in your HubSpot account. So they can continue working with the tools that they already know and love. Well, this is the manual way of sending over your leads to your HubSpot environment. It can get quite time consuming. As you can see, this website has over 1,000 companies that visit it. And it can be a bit time consuming to click on every company, see what they did, and then connect them to HubSpot. That's why we've created an automation, which allows you to automatically send over your website visitors to your HubSpot environment using triggers. I've already created a trigger. Within your trigger, you can set up the rules you want. For example, if it's a recurring session and whether they need to visit a certain page. And if they meet all these rules, and you think, okay, this is an interesting company, I want this to be sent over to HubSpot, you can select on the action the option to create or connect it with an existing company. What Leadinfo will do, if somebody meets these rules, it will look at if the company already exists. If it doesn't exist, it will create a new one. And if it does exist, it will connect it to an existing company. You can select the owner. Here I've selected run, and then you can even say, okay, I want to create a new deal or task. Just enable the action and set your trigger live. And from that moment on, all the companies who visit your website and who meet these rules will be sent to HubSpot automatically. Well, one of the most of the questions that we get regarding the integration with HubSpot is that they want to determine themselves what information get placed in what properties within HubSpot. So for now, since recently we added a new functionality called field mapping. So if you were to navigate back to settings and go back to your HubSpot integration settings, you can see a new option called field mapping. And field mapping allows you to determine what information from Leadinfo needs to be sent over and what properties within HubSpot. So if you click on this blue button, you will see that there are some fields that we can send over to your HubSpot environment. Here you can see that we have some required fields. So these definitely need to be linked. And here are some optional fields. So if you were to click on the optional field, you can change the property that you want to place this information in HubSpot. Well, it makes sense to put the address in street address, but you can also say, I don't want it to be in address, I want it to be in about us, for example. So if you save this and you send over a company to your HubSpot environment, the address will be placed in the property about us. You can just simply add new mappings by clicking on new mapping, search for the Leadinfo field. So let's say we want to send over the branch code, the international branch code, and then look for the right property in HubSpot. So you'll see we'll gather all the information from HubSpot here, so you can place it here. Now, let's just put, for example, LinkedIn bio. Just as an example, you can just click on save and then it will be added. In addition, you can say if the company already exists, it already has data within a certain field, you can determine whether you want to overwrite existing data. So whether you want the data from Leadinfo to be leading. So this is how field mapping works. You can determine yourself what information from Leadinfo send over into what property within your HubSpot environment. So once you've set that all up, you know what information you want to send over. You also know in your inbox or through triggers what companies you want to send over, and you've linked them all. It's easy. You'll easily find them in your HubSpot environment with the information you need, and Ron will then show you, of course, how that works. Yeah, so let me go back to the presentations. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat or in the question tab, and Davey will definitely try to answer those. And otherwise, we'll get back to it during the Q&A. And then I'd like to continue with Craig, who will tell you a bit more about the possibilities or a bit more about Sales Hub from HubSpot.
Thank you very much, Millicent. Appreciate that. Thanks for the invite today to speak to everybody. Good morning, everyone. Depending where you are, it could be good afternoon. My name is Craig, as Millicent said, and my role here in HubSpot is a channel account manager. And I work with Ron and other partners across the Benelux and Nordic regions, supporting them in any way I can. So again, thanks for the invite today. And I'm here to talk to you about HubSpot's vision for CRM and the view of the world that we have around CRM and where we differentiate from others. And also then more specifically, I'm going to go into a bit of detail around Sales Hub and how I use it on a daily basis in my day-to-day, because at the end of the day, I am a salesperson as well. Could you move on to the next slide, please? And the next one, that would be great. Super. So I'm going to jump straight in. As it says here, today's most disruptive companies are winning on customer experience. And at the center of this is the CRM. And here at HubSpot, we believe that the new frontier is the customer experience. And what I mean by that is, with the advent of the pandemic and also now the geopolitical situation that's going on in Europe, this has been fast forwarded. It's never been more important. And at the core of this is the CRM. And this is where all your customer data lives. And we believe that in HubSpot, to give your teams, your customer facing teams, namely your sales, marketing, service teams, the best chance to give your customers the best experience possible, your CRM needs to do exactly that. If you move on to the next, please. However, as we all know, the CRM has a checkered past. And what I mean by that is, you don't need to be a historian to understand. I'm sure a lot of people here in attendance have used CRMs in the past where it's not fit for purpose. And in fact, from my previous experience with some CRM systems, it actually made my job more difficult. And that is not ideal. So when it comes to making a decision on a CRM, it's very simple. You need to look at who's using it and what they're going to use it for. Yeah, next one, please. Thank you. And this brings us to what you don't want. So if you look at your CRM, you know, a lot of CRMs are very difficult to implement. They are cost heavy. The user adoption is low, and that is not ideal. This is because of the layered approach that a lot of companies take, adding a lot of new layers of technology, new sales tools into their CRM platform, and this is the end result. It's a frightening monster, right? So what we call this a legacy CRM Franken system, and this is a term that we use in HubSpot, and this is what we totally avoided when we went to market in 2013 with Sales Hub and CRM. If you can move on to the next, please. Thanks, Emil. So this brings me to Sales Hub and CRM. As I said, we launched Sales Hub Professional or Sales Hub in 2013. And when we did that, we sat back and we really looked at the points that I referred to earlier and how we went about it. If you can move to the next one, that would be great. And we took a three-pronged approach when designing the CRM and also Sales Hub. So we looked at a modern CRM approach. What we mean by that is very basically looking at who is going to use it and what they need it for. And this is all your customer-facing teams. And then if you look at the middle here, all-in-one product. So what we mean by that is we saw the need for your sales teams and managers and so on to be able to run that sales process from start to finish in one place. So there's no reliance on third-party tools and systems to be able to do that. So that's something that we really insisted upon when we went to market. And then the final point is handcrafted, not cobbled. What we mean by that in HubSpot is everything that we do, everything that we build, in fact, all 5 hubs are built on one source of code. So it's natively built from the ground up. And this allows for a way better user experience, way higher adoption rates, and ultimately a way more successful implementation as well. Next one, please. Thank you very much. So this brings us to the most important person involved in your business, and that's the customer. And this is the customer journey, what you're looking at here. And if you look at, the first part there, where the strangers, this is the ultimate goal. You want to attract as many strangers to your business as possible, so they come into the marketing funnel. But this has to be extremely married tightly with your sales team. And this is where we move leads, qualified leads from your marketing over to sales. And this is where they turn into prospects. And if I could bring your attention to the 2 middle green boxes, one is connecting quickly to your leads. I'm going to touch on this in a second in a bit more detail, but a little pro tip here is speed is of the essence here. Research shows that if you respond to a lead within 30 minutes, you have a 50% success rate in moving them to the next stage, increase to this in success rate to moving them to the next stage in the sales process. The longer you leave it, the less chance you have of success. And another very, very important part of this part of the sales, of the customer journey, should I say, is nurturing those leads. So you want to start building a relationship, showing value and adding trust and building trust with those leads. So just moving on to the next slide, please. And this brings me to the really exciting bit for me. So as a sales quota carrier in HubSpot, we have the luxury in HubSpot to be sent leads on a daily basis. So I would receive several leads every day. In fact, this morning I've received some leads notifications that I've already responded to, and I've already got meetings booked in my calendar. So what I mean by that is, for example, this one here is a demo request. So somebody went onto our website, they filled out a form requesting a demo. You can also see that I can see their last page view. It brings me directly into their contact record in our CRM, and also it tells me when and what activity they took, and also all the company details. So this is the type of rich lead notifications I get on a daily basis. If you could move to the next, please. And this is what we're here to talk to you guys about today. And this, for me, is the most exciting tool within Sales Hub Professional and obviously Enterprise. It makes my life so much easier, and I work so much more efficiently because of the fact that I have access to this type of tool. And this is what we call sequences. And what you're looking at here is a very simple sequence that can be more complex than this. And Ron is going to go into way more detail on this shortly. But just to explain how it works. So as you can see, this particular lead is where somebody has activated the free CRM. And I've been notified of this straight away in real time. So I can react and reach out and connect to that lead straight away by using sequences. Sequences are a sequence of events, namely emails and tasks over a number of or a period of time, normally around 2 weeks, maybe possibly 3 weeks. Okay, so as you can see here on the left-hand side, I send automatically, I kick off a sequence on the contact record. Initial email goes to the prospect, congratulating them for activating the free CRM. And also a little pro tip, when you use sequences, always give them an option to click on your calendar and book time with you every single time. Obviously, that's the ultimate goal here. You want to get to speak to the prospect. And the next task is an actual task that's automatically sent to me several days later to actually call the prospect. If you're not successful in speaking to the prospect, a second email as a reminder goes out several days later, 3 days later, to be exact, and so on. Ultimately, when that prospect takes the desired action, which is they've booked time with you, the sequence stops automatically. So they're not being bombarded with further emails and so on and so forth. I can't speak highly enough of this tool, everybody. It is definitely, I mean, I come from a world previously where, you had to go and really look for those leads, right? These are coming to me, these leads, which is a luxury, but also I can react to them very, very quickly. I can sit here and deliver a webinar, and at the same time, the leads that I've actioned this morning are being looked after. So it's a mindset. It's very, very satisfying. So with that said, thanks for the time. It was very brief. I'm going to hand over to Ron, who's going to go into a little bit more detail around automation and specifically sequences. Thanks again.
Thank you, Craig. Good morning, everyone, as well. I'd love to show you, like Craig already said, in a little bit more detail what the day-to-day looks like inside HubSpot. I am carefully assuming that a lot of you people already know HubSpot. Still, I want to show you especially the really cool stuff. I might go a little bit fast, might be a little bit much information for just this webinar, so feel free to ask any questions, and I'm also happy to follow up after if needed. Let me share my screen right away and get right into it. So to you HubSpot users who already have it, this screen will be very familiar. Hopefully you can see. Millicent, can you see everything correctly as well?
Yes, I can see
Great.
everything correctly. Just let us know if it's too blurry in the chat, then Ron can zoom in. And just to hop in real quickly, what Ron is about to show, it's all related to HubSpot Sales Hub Professional. But Ron, of course, can tell you more about that as well.
Yeah, just to add on that, if you look at simply sending data from Leadinfo to HubSpot, you're still good with the free CRM. So even from the most basic license, you are able to send over data to HubSpot and work the lead yourself, especially manually. But if you want the more automated stuff, which I am about to show you, that will be all part of the what is called the sales professional license, like Millicent said. So just that you know in which license that is placed. And I'm going to show you some workflow stuff as well, which will be part of marketing professional, but I'll tell you more about it later. So when you get into HubSpot and Leadinfo has hopefully sent over leads to HubSpot for you, you can view the companies and you can see your leads right here inside HubSpot. As an example, obviously we've put Leadinfo in here. And when I open the information, you can see that Leadinfo is filling out a lot of fields already. Those are the ones that Millicent also showed in the field mapping. So depending on how you configured your field mapping, you will see the data here on the left on your screen. What you can also always see is where a company comes from, because the Leadinfo integration always registers that a lead is actually coming from Leadinfo. That's very handy inside HubSpot, because then you can also always use this information for your automations, your reports, your process. You can build anything around the fact that the lead is actually coming from Leadinfo. You see here on the right that I've done my research and my homework, and I already know that Millicent is in this case the one I want to talk to. So what I've did, I just added her contact into HubSpot, so I'm able to prospect her and hopefully turn her into a customer. When I open her record, it's nice to show you that there's also a LinkedIn Sales Navigator integration. This means that here on the right, I have a widget which already shows me the LinkedIn information. And I also have some options to, for example, send an email right from here. I can even send a connection request. Now, Millicent and I are already connected, so that's the button you don't see right now. So I have some LinkedIn options here as well, which is good to know. So when I will be prospecting her further, there are two kinds of automations inside HubSpot. I can find these under the tab Automation. And you see here that there are sequences and workflows. So the difference is that a workflow is meant to automate stuff inside HubSpot. It's mostly or very often marketing related. I'll dive right in. But I can, for example, here configure workflows, and that's what's part of that automation part of inside HubSpot. So to dive right in and show you, I can automate basically everything I want inside HubSpot. I can update the CRM using workflows. I can send out emails, do internal notifications, create tasks for my colleagues. Basically, if you can think about it, you can create it. So there's a lot of possibilities here, which I'm definitely not able to cover today. In this case, I created a simple workflow, which simply looks at if a company is indeed coming from Leadinfo, because in that case, I want to start off a specific process. Now, what you can also do is that you often get more information about Leadinfo than only company name or address. Leadinfo also tries to send you, for example, how many people work there approximately, in which industry are they located. In the Netherlands, you have this code from the Chamber of Commerce, which they also send over and which you can use to filter on. So lots of filtering options here. And just for this random example I thought up, you can choose to do some further qualification. So when a lead is coming from Leadinfo, you can check on other stuff as well, like I do here. And if these criteria are met, then I'm sending them to the sales team. If these criteria are not met, I want to send the lead to a specific coworker. Again, this is a totally random example, but just to show you what is possible. So when I want to start prospecting this lead, it's a good idea to assign the lead to a specific team member. In this case, I use the functionality in HubSpot to actually rotate assigning them to the right team member. Because if you have a sales team with maybe 5 or 10 people, you don't want all leads to go to the same person. You want leads to be evenly divided within a sales team. HubSpot is capable of doing that as well. So the first thing we do is actually assign the lead to somebody. And here on the right, you see that I can create teams inside HubSpot, in this case, a sales team, which is responsible for following up with everybody. And in this case, automatically HubSpot will divide the leads between the sales team or within the sales team. Another thing I did is create a deal. In HubSpot, you have pipelines where you can manage your sales process. So the companies you're talking to and who have a potential opportunity for you, and I can show you in a minute what that looks like, but you HubSpot users already know. I can automatically create a deal right away, so I can keep track of the fact that I'm trying to talk to this customer and sell them something. The second thing I'm doing here is create a task for the newly assigned company owner. He automatically chooses here the company owner, which was determined in the rotation here above. So the right person is getting a task, will be notified of the fact that they will be prospecting this company. So this is one way to automate stuff within HubSpot, within your CRM. The customer doesn't know anything about this, but this is something to automate your own administration and keep track of everything that's happening. And the last thing I'm doing here, just as an example again, is show you that HubSpot can also communicate with external tools such as Slack. To, for example, just inform the sales channel within Slack that there's a really nice new lead, and you can include all the CRM fields and the fields coming from Leadinfo in that right away. So I can send over the company name, company owner, maybe already established an amount, what kind of product I want to sell them, whatever. You can configure this message completely. Just to show you what's possible, again, it's a very random example. So that's what workflows do. And hopefully this inspires enough to see what would be possible by using this functionality. So the second part of automation, and the one that Craig is really enthusiastic about, with good reason, I think, is the sequences part. Again, this is part of the sales professional license. And this is where you actually manage the sequences. Now, I've set up only one for this demonstration. And this is what you already saw on Craig's slide as well. This is where I can configure the process that, for example, if I found out that Millicent is the one I want to talk to at Leadinfo, I can have this fully automatically kick off. I can, for example, automate that if a company comes from Leadinfo and I found the right person to talk to, that this sequence completely automatically kicks off. And the person, in this case Millicent, would receive this email. I'm able to customize this email. I can put CRM fields in it to make sure that it's customized. The advantage of these emails is that there's no distinction between what this email looks like for a customer and marketing, or a real email, sorry. So this email looks exactly like it's coming from my mailbox. I can even find this email in my sent items in Gmail. So it's a real email. It doesn't look like it's coming from a system or it's automated. So it's as close to real as it gets. So just to show you another example, simply to show you the functionality that's possible. You can also, for example, automatically, if the customer didn't reply within the day, create a task for yourself to send a connection request through Sales Navigator. So you can also incorporate some LinkedIn stuff in here, just to see if you can connect with this person and get the conversation going. You can then choose if the sequence waits for you to complete the task, or you can have it continue automatically after the task. In this case, I configured that it should automatically continue with the next step. He waits 3 days. Again, if the customer didn't reply, because if the customer does reply, the sequence always stops. So you can manually start communicating with the customer. But if they don't reply, the second email is going to go out. And in this case, waits another day. And if there's no reply, there's a task created to send another email. Or you can create a task, for example, to create a to-do for yourself, to manually see if there are other ways you can get into contact with this client. So that's what the automation stuff basically looks like on the sequences side. So those are basically the two directions in which you can, the two ways you can automate within HubSpot. Again, just a quick demo. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. Maybe as a last step, I will show you the pipeline. Again, this will be a familiar view for the people who already have HubSpot. But this is good to know for the people who maybe don't. If you are talking to companies, you can manage here what you're talking about, in which stage that is. You can completely configure this yourself, of course. You can have multiple of these pipelines if you like. I created a special one for Leadinfo here. And in the workflow, which I started off with, you saw the step that HubSpot can create a deal. So that means that it created this record automatically for me to keep track of and hopefully move towards them becoming a customer. So those are basically the most important steps in your CRM and automation process. Millicent, back to you, unless you think I maybe forgot something.
I think you covered it all. Thank you for showing us. As you saw, just a quick recap in the beginning, how to send over information from Leadinfo to HubSpot. Craig told you a bit more about the HubSpot sales professional, so you can use those sequences that Ron showed to automate the sales process. So when we send over a lead to HubSpot, you'll get notified, you receive a task within HubSpot, but you can also automatically send out an email to your contact. And even if you add the Sales Navigator integration, the Sales Navigator widget, it allows you to easily connect or send an email from the company profile within HubSpot. So by combining these tools, it makes it a lot easier to get in touch with the right person and automate that entire process to help you focus on like the things that matter the most, which is closing deals, of course. In the meantime, I saw some questions coming into the chat. One is from Max, which is aimed to Ron. How do you get the contact details such as first name or surname?
Well, since Leadinfo is, fortunately, GDPR proof, it's unfortunately unable to see exactly who your website is visiting, which is still something that you need to manually look after. So in this case, you would probably, it would definitely be recommended to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to really look for who would be the right person to talk to within the company and get your information from there. There is, by the way, also a Sales Navigator to HubSpot integration. So if you use Sales Navigator and you found, for example, Millicent to be the right person to talk to, you can connect her to HubSpot without having to type the name manually. But you still, unfortunately, have to look for the right person to talk to.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, indeed, what Ron mentioned, we can only show the companies that visit your website. We're not allowed to show who from that company visited your website. But by combining the integration with Sales Navigator or taking a look at the LinkedIn contacts within Leadinfo, you will still be able to easily find the contact person that you need. So another question, as another question, Max has another question on his previous question. He also have to connect that manually via the LinkedIn Navigator. And that's true, you have to connect with them manually. But by adding the Sales Navigator, it's just done within one click. If you have the company if you have the profile open. So it makes it a lot easier though. I see another question from Vinny, which is it possible to forward the labels from Leadinfo to a HubSpot property? And this is possible. Just like I showed you in field mapping, you can determine what information you want to send over from Leadinfo to HubSpot. And one of those properties is our tags. So you can send over tags in the right property within HubSpot. And that also allows you to create a different kind of trigger within your workflow. For example, if you assign the label or the tag visit a demo page, you can use that label as a trigger in your workflow to send a different email or start a different sequence. Is that correct, Ron?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. And this is a HubSpot question from Inge. Now you create a workflow and a sequence, but why not process that in one workflow?
Yeah, that's, I think, a really good question, because you could think like, why don't I just do this in one place and configure it right there? Well, the good thing to know is that sequences is separate functionality within HubSpot, so it's a different functionality. That means you can't send these personalized emails like looking like they come from your mailbox from a workflow, where a workflow is capable of sending out marketing emails. So, for example, if somebody fills out a form on your website and you want to follow up with an email to thank them and maybe a few days later remind them, those marketing automation workflows, you use this workflow functionality for. But the sequences are really sales functionality, like HubSpot calls it, and are separate. The advantage is that these two do talk to each other. So, for example, if you've created the marketing workflow or the first workflow that I showed you, which updates the CRM, creates the deal automatically, assigns it to the right person, those steps, you can then incorporate a step to enroll then the person automatically into the sequence. So you can enroll people into a sequence from a workflow, only you cannot replicate sequence functionality within a workflow. I hope it makes sense. Otherwise, feel free to follow up.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Ron. I also saw another question from Aryan, who asked if there's a possibility to set up a sales sequence template, or does this always need to be set up manually regarding the steps I want to use in my sequence?
Yeah, also a good question. Yeah, it works with templates on standard, so you always have the option to create your custom email if you want. But it definitely works with templates, which you can also share with your team, maintain centrally, so you don't have to start over all the time.
Awesome, thank you. So I think I've answered all the questions that came up in the chat. If I missed your question, just let me know and put it in the chat and we'll answer it as soon as possible. We will also share this recording automatically after we finish this webinar, and I will make sure that you will receive an email this week with the more information, with help articles on how to set up the integration, but also with these slides. And in case you do not have the Sales Hub license, then you'll find contact information in that email to get started with the Sales Hub license to really automate your sales process within HubSpot. Yeah, thank you, Rico, for the feedback. Good to hear that it's tangible and has relevant content. I'm looking at Craig and Ron if you have anything to add to this presentation or like to give something away for, give a takeaway from this presentation. And otherwise, I think we've answered all the questions.
Yeah, I think there's well, thanks anyone for coming. I mean, it's always nice to see such a turn up. And there's so much to talk about and so much to tell that feel absolutely free to contact both Craig or me, doesn't matter. to talk further if you like, or have any questions. Because there's so much to ask or to talk about that we probably didn't cover everything today.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for everybody for joining. A great turnout. We might even run another one of these in the near future, for sure. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and have a lovely rest of your day. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Me and my colleague Davey are ready to answer your questions regarding Leadinfo, and we're happy to help you get in touch with the right person if you have any HubSpot related questions. Thank you, everyone, and have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone.